All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Up on TSN 4, up on YouTube Live. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's going on today?
Lots going on today.
Yes, there is.
Lots going on today. How are we feeling?
Lots going on, Noodles, and it is a newsy day, and I'm sure Hazy B would like to get to the news of the day. But sometime during this show, I'm going to tell you about listening to some country music in the back country and just pulling over to take a leak.
Okay, good tease.
I'd rather hear that story.
Great tease. That's coming up because I have a very similar story.
Really?
Of all the places in Ontario you could pull over and take a leak, you're not going to believe this
You're
one.
not going to believe what happened this
So
morning.
you two were traveling together,
No.
obviously.
We'll tell you later.
No.
We'll tell you later. Okay, we'll tell you later.
That's a tease, man. That's a tease.
Way bigger than the Berube news.
Yeah,
we'll save that for the 5 p.m. hour. Okay, so you got to hang tight for what I witnessed this morning.
Okay.
But, man, the Leafs are in the content game, aren't they? They are in the they have not
Headlines.
played a meaningful game in 3 months.
Yep.
2 months at least. And yet they just keep churning out news where earlier this morning they announced via the team that Craig Berube has been relieved of his duties.
I think it's kind of sad. It's not sad, but it's like you just look at the main suspects that are here. How many people have these guys mowed through?
Not as many as Edmonton.
Are you sure about
Not
that?
even close. Oh, McDavid's played for how many coaches?
6, 5 or 6. 5.
Why does
five.
it not apply to him?
Okay, all of them. You could, if you want to put. We're talking about the Leafs today.
No, I understand.
You could put an
understand
umbrella, but it's like Lou Lamoriello, Kyle Dubas, like it goes on and on. Mike Babcock, Sheldon Keefe, Craig Berube. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you're like, are you telling me that they're going to continue to give these same guys the benefit of the doubt to go through another guy? I wouldn't, man. I get it. You don't now just bring back.
This.
I get it. I get
to.
it. And if you want to play differently, bring back the music. And if you get pumped 6-1, play Drake at the practice rink and skate around and practice your do whatever you want. But you're going to mow through somebody else. How do you just not say we're breaking these guys up? Like, you want to fire Craig. That's what happens in the big leagues. You have a season like this. All the categories where coaching is important, they didn't show up.
Horrendous.
They were horrendous, and sometimes you get fired. I get that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But what are they going to do next? It's already gone from analytics guy with Dubas and then a bunch of other people, and now it's back to analytics. So it's almost like we're full circle. What do you do? Who's the next Sheldon Keefe type? I don't know. I just don't get it. I understand what goes on in the big leagues, but I can't for the life of me think that they're going to let these guys, like these guys here, Chaika and Mats, think that these group of players with the right people, coaches, are going to turn it around and do something special. Wrong. It's not happening.
Well, I think what we need to look at is every organization's different. Expectations are different, all of that type of stuff. You know, you brought up Edmonton. You're right. They've had different coaches, all of that. But they've been to the finals a couple times. So that's the biggest challenge there. We're talking about Toronto. They haven't had as many coaches, but they haven't had that much success. I think there's times where, we're mad about it, but haven't we been going, isn't Vegas the standard? Doesn't matter. Like, you're looking at other
guys all the time.
All the
They
time.
just fired a guy with 8 games left.
This is a cutthroat business.
Yes.
This isn't about, great coaches get fired. We're going to have one on in 5 o'clock hour. Lavi is an unbelievable coach. He's going to coach again in the NHL, but he has been relieved of his duties several times in this league. It happens. I understand what you're saying, but I think what the norm, the outlier now is John Cooper and Jared Bednar. Everybody else is Roddy Brindamore. You're right. Everybody else is on 3 years, 4 years.
Okay, but Jamie, I'm talking about this specific group.
I understand.
If anybody, those gentlemen I just mentioned, think that they just need the right coach with that roster that they have in place.
No.
But
clinically insane.
But you got to be clear about what happened last year. Listen, I'm not a proponent that this roster or this team is the greatest team in the league.
They're terrible.
I don't think they're one of the 3 or 4 worst, though. Like,
Right.
They were horrendous defensively all year. Arguably the worst team in the league all season. Do the players have to own 70% of that? Yes. 80? Fine, I'll give you 90 maybe. Craig Berube has to own a lot of it, though. The head coach is responsible. We just had Ron Brindamore. What this team's about. First 10 minutes, how they're going to play, how they're going to buy in. Now, you can sit there and say they should have bought in more, and with that, I wouldn't disagree.
Yep.
You know, I think Berube had a style of game that he was promoting that's difficult to play, right? And they tried it the year before, and it worked, and then it got away from them in the biggest game of their whole tenure in Game 7 against Florida in very embarrassing fashion, and the wheels completely fell off. But you can hate on the players all you want, and I'm not sitting here pumping their tires, but it's a reality of pro sports in 2026 that if you underperform to the extent that the Leafs did last year, going from winning their division, making the playoffs 9 straight years, to being an absolute disaster, the GM and the coach are in big trouble.
People are going to lose their
of
jobs
course.
because
and furthermore, the team looked disjointed and kind of quit on the guy. I don't see how Berube could walk back in the room. So I don't think you can keep him out of spite to the players. And I actually think this is a positive sign that, Pelly said, and I thought it was strange at the time, if you're going to get rid of Tree Living, I thought just get rid of Berube too. How is he possibly going to stay?
Agreed.
But he did say that's the GM's job. I'm going to hire a GM, and that GM will make the decision. He hired Chaika. Chaika met with Berube on Saturday. It's been well reported by Dregs and others. 3, 4, 5 hours they were talking about everything. 3 days later, they decided you're done, and they're going to move on. So, Chaika, maybe it was predetermined, maybe it wasn't. Maybe Chaika's – I don't know where he's going to take this. I don't know. I don't know who they're going to hire.
What do you think the biggest factor in the firing was? Because I'm not sure John Chaika was keeping tabs on the Toronto Maple Leafs as closely as anybody thinks, and Matt's for that matter too. Do you think it was the statistical breakdown of how the team played and their defensive struggles and all of that? Do you think it was players' comments? Do you think it was other staff? What do you think was the straw that broke the camel's back where John Chaika said, I'm not doing this, I'm firing the coach?
It might be a combination of all that, and what I mean by that is exit interviews. I guarantee you Keith Pelly probably talked to some of the players. Regardless of whether they should weigh in on or not, those are the guys that are going out there to play. I think you look at it analytically, you talk about it, I know you don't want to hear it, but the last 2 years, the difference between year 1 and year 2 was goaltending. Goaltending propped up some of the things that may have gone deficient. This past year, they were injured and they weren't good enough. But at the end of the day, I don't think you choose a new coach until you figure out what your roster's going to look like. And that's the one thing. That's why they're going to have a wide search. You don't just hire a coach today. I think you've got to hire the coach for the roster that you're building, because it might be a young progressive guy if you are going to retool.
Jamie, you can't build any kind. You can't hire a coach for any kind of future roster because these guys only last for 2 years.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, I was defensive of Chief of why they kept him, because they're like, we don't know who he's coaching next year. We don't know if Austin Matthews puts his hand up and says, I want to leave, and they're going to go young, and we need a hardened coach that just coaches straight line hockey because that's the team they're going to build in a rebuild. That I don't know if that's the case. The point being is they've deemed Craig Berube's out. They're going to head in a different direction. Yeah. And John Chaika's putting a stamp on the organization.
It's not that complicated, guys. You've been around for a long time.
Agreed.
They were a disaster. What are we talking about here? It's not deep. It's not a conspiracy theory. We all watched them play. They were horrendous. What coach survives that? You explain it to me. Both of you. Explain to me.
Hayes, I just asked a question.
No, I know that, but you're asking it rhetorically, I can't believe it. It's not tough to figure out. It would have been.
Thanks, Tips.
Crazy.
I get it. It was a terrible year. You fired the coach. You're acting like I'm devastated. He got fired.
But you're asking the question as if you don't know the answer. You watched them. They were horrendous. No coach survives that. It would have been managerial malpractice if they brought him back, if the plan is to win next year. They have to change it.
Okay, all I'm saying is if this roster comes back and some smarty-pants coach comes in, good luck, because you're not going to win with them. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
get whatever coach you want.
You got to give it a shot is the point, though.
Good, do it. That's all I'm saying. Get another guy in there, and they're going to do their own thing, and they're not going to win. And that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I get the impression this move would suggest to me Chaika has either sold them or they asked them to sell them on the idea of them being a competitive team next year. I could be wrong on that, and I'm not going to sit here and predict that they will be. But if you want to be competitive next year, this was an obvious move.
And it happened in Pittsburgh. You know what?
Exactly.
They got rid of Mike Sullivan. They brought in Muse, and the team made the playoffs. They got dummied in the first round, but you know what? They made the playoffs.
And I'm not sitting here saying that coach is going to make them a cup contender. I'm not, and I don't see it happening. But Chaika and Sundin, I'm assuming, have plans for the offseason. I don't know if they can pull them off. Things have got to happen with this roster. There's no questioning that.
Right.
But if you think – because the easy play could have been, I think this team's going up in smoke. I'm going to keep Craig around and then, fire him 30 games in next season and bring in an interim. What's up happening, right? Maybe it all blows up anyway. Matthews, Nylander, they decide we're going in a different direction. And in a year or two, that's the direction they're going to take. But if you have the ambition of getting back on the horse next year, regardless of how anyone else feels about it, if that is the internal objective, we're going to try to finish with 95-plus points and make the playoffs, then use the bullet now, right? Don't wait for 25 games in. Try to establish a new system and game plan and voice and take another kick at the can.
I agree.
And I think that's what they're doing.
I agree. Like, if we dumb it down, there's no way you could bring it back with a new regime anyways. I think Craig Berube should have been let go with Brad Treliving, had Nusi Lalonde run the rest of the season as an interim, and then you start over fresh. We knew Craig was a dead man walking. You could see in his body language. Mm-hmm. Looking back on it, I think if there was true serum, and Craig's too classy of a guy to do this, but I would love in a candid moment to go, did you execute everything that you wanted to do? And hear me out on this. There's probably nights where he's like, I wanted to sit 88 out or do something different. And whether he didn't do it or maybe from above or whatever, like, to me, there was things where I felt like he probably could have done something different with the personality that we see in Craig Berube. Now, he has to own that. They had a poor year.
Do you think they look back as an organization and wish they pulled the trigger 20 games into last season?
Maybe.
You think?
Like, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. You can, in hindsight, you can go back and say, Team X should have done this at Christmas when they weren't responding. They could have done this. You should have traded this guy. We can do it all until we're blue in the face when it comes down to it. But I think today's announcement was the least surprising thing that comes out of Leaf Camp, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
I would agree with that. And I think, listen, hindsight being 2020, it actually worked out beautifully because everyone played a role in them winning the lottery. Like, that's the truth. Everyone being a part of the program led to the lottery balls falling their way, and now they have the first overall pick. But, Matthews is front and center on everything here. And, whether or not he had his voice heard, I wouldn't be surprised. Chaika said no. Like, Chaika said definitively, no, zero. He had nothing to do with this. Maybe it was more indirectly.
Right.
This is where you look at Matthews and the way that was utilized with Berube, which I understand Berube's approach. Like, his approach was, we need to play like Florida, like St. Louis in 19, and it wasn't the right horse for the course, or the horses for courses just weren't there for them.
Right.
But you look at Matthews, and the amount of times he'd start in his own end, the amount of matchups he'd have where it was tough on tough or best player on best player. Like, Berube was putting him in different positions, and, I don't know if it worked.
Using him more like Barkov as opposed to an offensive.
And I would not be surprised if the next coach, if the objective is we got to treat him like an offensive dynamo. And
like Sheldon Keefe did.
Maybe. And I get that didn't lead to a Stanley Cup. I'm not arguing against that.
Dude,
but it doesn't mean it's not the right play for right now, or you got to try something
I get
different.
it. If you want to move forward and try something that's already been cycled through before, go ahead and do it with these guys.
So what would you suggest they do then?
Well,
what do you think?
Brian, I think you're misunderstanding. I get it. They want to make a change. But what they're doing, it's already the third time through. That's the only thing. It's been 10 years. So now you're on a second cycle of getting a different voice. So go ahead and do it. I get it. You got to do it. All I'm saying is we're talking about a group of players that are going to be on their third or fourth cycle. Mike Babcock, Sheldon Keefe, Craig Berube, and now it's reverting back to another one. How many group of players get that opportunity to cycle through a different philosophy where you actually look at the players that go on the ice and say, maybe different players?
Hold on. Who's to say those players are coming back?
Then Marner's not here anymore.
At this point, I don't even care if they come back. I really don't.
But hear me out. Because what you need is, if this is John Chaika's team, and it is now, he might have a completely different philosophy and say, what have we talked about? They might have 8 to 10 new faces on there. That's a different team. You might still have some of the same cast of characters. You're not flushing 20, but you might have a way different looking team next year. And that's going to have a new coach attached to it. So, yes, you're going to have, if you bring back Matthews and Nylander, which they're under contract, and those are star players, Tavares is going to be there. I know what you're saying, but if everybody else has changed around that, that's a different team. That's not the same cast of characters.
I'd like to see it, Jamie, but we've already discussed the challenges that come to flipping out 8 different players.
And a couple more things on that. For starters, Marner's not here anymore, right? Marner, that is a massive piece that was here for 9 years, that is not here anymore. A lot of the Shanahan era is been moving out. Berube is the last hire of the Shanahan era, right? Tree Living went out a month and a half ago. Yes, you have Matthews and Nylander and Tavares and Riley, who are still here. I can't imagine Morgan Riley's here in the fall. We'll see. But that's a pretty major hit as well. So if you move off a coach, a GM, Marner, and Riley within 18 months, that's pretty significant change. Who knows what is going to happen with Austin and with Willie in the future? And those are the two main pieces.
Right.
But I think what happened this year, and it was extreme, needs to be considered here. The issue these players had for 9 years was they were not clutch. They did not have the ability to make the biggest plays under the brightest lights.
Yep.
That was the issue with Babcock. That was the issue with Keefe. And then it turned out to be the issue with Berube last year, where they got to all these Game 6s and all these Game 7s, and they all folded, and they didn't perform enough. It was a very thin margin we were talking about. Like, are you going to get a new coach to see if that guy can – and that's what Berube was supposed to represent. And unfortunately, he is on record as the coach of the worst meltdown of them all. Of all the meltdowns, Babcock, Keefe, and Berube, the worst of the worst is Game 7 at home against Florida last year. And nothing is even within the stratosphere of that. This year was a completely different evaluation of everything, because it wasn't about the thinnest margins. Can you win Game 7 against Florida or beat Boston in the Boston Garden? This was a complete meltdown. Like, it was a completely different review, I would assume, from Chaika and company, because it wasn't about one piece or two pieces. Now you're talking about an organizational audit, effectively, and that's effectively what he said today. So this is more of a big picture thing. Now, what that means for Matthews and Nylander, and let's be clear, those are the two guys we're really talking about. Like, those are the two best
Tavares
players.
is different now, right?
John is just in a different place. He's still got a loud voice there, and he's still, got a legacy that he owns, and he's a big part of that dressing room. But it's the captain. And then, Nylander, the most offensive kind of player on the team and the most mercurial player on the team, is Nylander. And how are they going to react to the next wave of coaching? I don't know. I don't have that answer. Are they going to be here long term? I'm not sure. But this year in the meltdown is different than past meltdowns in terms of what the issue has been.
Yeah. And ultimately what it comes back to is – today's world now, like it's what have you done for me lately? And that's the biggest thing. Like, Bruce Cassidy won a cup, and the guy who was rock star coach. It's like Vegas is like, don't like what we're seeing, and we can't get rid of the players, so it's 8 games left, Torts, here you come. Like, it's a cutthroat world right now. I mean, look at what the Islanders did. How many games left with that, with Pete DeBoer coming in? 4 games left, and they missed the playoffs, and they got a hell of a player there, but they wanted their coach. And that's Patrick Waugh getting let go.
Yeah.
Craig Berube gets let go. He won a cup. Patrick Waugh is a legendary coach and done a great job.
Maybe Patty Roy comes through town.
I don't know, man. It depends.
Why
this
not?
is the one.
Why
this
not?
is the one thing I would say is, and I'm being respectful here. Is it a desirable spot right now with where the organization at is for a legacy coach, or is it better for a younger, up and coming Dan Muse, Manny Malhotra type guy, a first time at it where you've got a different team? Because I don't know how many legacy coaches. Certainly, you want the money, you want the Toronto
That's going to be
market,
the question, though, Noodles.
But it's different,
is
man.
I agree with you, but Babcock came here because they paid him that money. Like, that's why he came here. He didn't have some burning desire to coach in Toronto, in my opinion. They offered him more money than any coach in the history of the league had ever been offered.
Right.
So he jumped on it. And I guess that's the question. To answer your original question, putting money aside, no, I don't think it is. You know, I wouldn't say it's on top of the list. I would put Edmonton, if they get rid of Knobloch, higher than the Leafs, because you got McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard.
You're not 8 pieces away.
Right.
That's the difference.
But here you do have the first overall pick coming, which I would think would be enticing. The challenge of, it's the Toronto market. You get resources that you're not going to get elsewhere. It obviously would be the epitome of a resume builder if you can make it work here. But it takes a strong mentality to bring it on here in Toronto.
Don't you think the coach, like, first and foremost, if I signed here, don't you think they would be like, I want a long-term deal? Because there might be a couple years.
Yes.
Might be a couple years of turning things around.
But I don't know if that's the case, though, Noodles. Like, that's the thing. If they're trying to win next year, win again. I'm not saying Stanley
They're trying
Cup,
to make the playoffs. You're right.
Try to make the playoffs next year. Then
so how many moves away? Like, here's the other thing. You're in the Atlantic. You're not in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. So who are you knocking out? That's the thing. And just so you know, Florida's getting healthy. And Detroit's going to try and do exactly what the Leafs are doing in the offseason.
Hayes, let me ask you something.
Okay.
He's still fired up.
By the way, when I was taking a piss, the guy that honked his horn at me, I wish he rolled into the farm field and rolled over.
Really?
Anyway.
Because I don't see it the same way. You want Craig Berube to be the coach for the next decade?
Dude, I'm trying to tell you, I don't care who gets hired or fired. Craig's a friend of mine, but he got fired. The team was terrible last year. But you totally missed the point on all of it.
I did.
What is the
point?
I got you too.
No, you missed the point on all of it.
Go ahead.
You talked about making the – what is the – we've seen it with Pittsburgh. Like, they tried to claw into the playoffs. Year after year, they got dummied in the first round. What is the sense of doing that, in your opinion? To just make let's just get back into the playoffs and probably get slaughtered in the first round. So you tell me, what is the purpose of doing that? If you're trying to – if there's this long-term kind of thought process here, what is the sense in doing that?
I think the sense in doing this, Hulkster, is that if you hire the right people and you build the program and you move forward with a process where you feel like, again, I sound like Keith Pelly, where you're aligned.
Yeah, you're horizontally and vertically aligning yourself, you dumbass. You are Pelly. Finkel is Einhorn, and you are Pelly.
Well, and what I'm saying is, if you're building a program where you're anti-tank, or if you're against the idea of just being awful all the time, this is the process you take. You try to hire the right GM. I don't know if Chayka is. We'll see. You try to hire a good coach, period. Not a coach to win one game or get you great for one season, or a guy in 5 years that will build with a group.
But that instills the system.
Exactly. And if the payoff is you're better next year, awesome. And then you keep growing on that. Ultimately, what happened today doesn't change the fact that they don't have a good enough farm system. They need way more picks. They need way more kids. They need to turn over their defense. All of that is factual. But you're not going to do it all in one offseason. And ultimately they have two roads they can go down. I guess the one you're promoting is you got to get rid of everybody and you got to blow it up and plan for 5 years from now. And that might be the road they should take. I'm not saying it won't be. In 5 years we may look back on it and say they should have done that. The other one is don't blow it up. Figure out which players you want to keep, which ones you feel you've got to acquire, hire the right people, and try to build moving forward.
Okay.
And
I'm
whether
just telling
that
you,
leads
your
to
plan,
80 points or 100 next year, I don't know.
I'm just telling you the danger of saying with the question marks ahead with Austin Matthews, if you want to crawl into the playoffs and get slaughtered in the first round, then the contract runs out or he asks out, and then you get nothing left for him. The only time to replenish everything would be now. If you wait, good luck with that.
Sure. But
Good
I don't
luck
know
with
if those, is the Matthews future linked to the news today?
I have no idea. I have no idea what I don't talk to Judd Muldiver or Austin Matthews. I do not know his plans.
But I guess what I'm saying is whether he's going to stay or not in 2 years.
Yeah.
Is it a matter of Berube's back next year or not?
I'll tell you one thing. If I was dealing with that situation, I would say we're giving you a month. And by the draft, or before the draft, we need to know what your intentions are, because we're not going to sit and wait and try to make all these transactions to impress you or whatever it is you feel that's needed. We're not doing that. We got a business and a team to run here. We want to know the deal. What's the deal?
I don't think you have if you're John Chaika, you can't build this team for Austin Matthews. You build it for John Chaika and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if Austin Matthews is a part of it, great. If he's not, then you move on from him. It should be a scenario where you're trying to build a program that wins and give yourself a window of 10 years. And that's the thing. So today, today,
you know what your name is? It's not Keith Pelly. It's Keith Smelly. Go ahead, Keith Smelly. Go to commercial.
Let's go to commercial. Let's pick it up on the other end, because I still have more thoughts on this.
Okay, and I
need to hear this piss story,
I'll tell you the story of what I saw.
I wish the guy Keith Smelly.
Second grade.
Yeah.
This guy's literally name dropped.
Yeah, you're Keith Smelly.
All right.
That's you.
What could I put on? I got to come up with a name for
No,
you.
you don't have
your
to.
glue.
You can't come
What
back.
bounces off of me sticks to you, right? I'm rubber, your
side
glue.
Of the road.
Keith Smelly. P-U.
All right. Peter Laviolette in half an hour.
Possible segment in the future. Pelly or Smelly?
I like that idea. And I got a list for you. I thought you'd want a list today.
Love it.
Right? Now don't piss
You know
all
what,
over
Smelly?
my
It's
list.
your show, man. Smelly, it's your show. It's your show, Smelly.
I don't want you to pee all over it, but I have a list that I'll get to later. Overdrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel. We've got Peter Laviolette coming up in half an hour. Chris Johnston here in a moment. Jays, man, they desperately need a win tonight. Desperately. You cannot get swept twice by the Rays in 2 weeks. But they're on the verge of it happening tonight. Dylan Cease on the mound. Big, big night. And got some Vladdy stats that are very concerning. Dis or Data, the baseball version, coming up a little bit later on. We got PGA Championship picks, and I've got a list for you guys that I'll squeeze in at some point between now and the show.
The smelly
list. I've got a smelly list.
Joe from the bridge, you better have that board up. The smelly list.
Go ahead, bring it. All right, I've got a perfect video that someone tweeted in. It's too bad you're not on social media anymore.
No,
because there's some great interaction going on right now about how the O-Dog is going to react to my list later on.
Yeah, Roger Dorn, I saw it.
Roger Dorn.
I will piss on your list, on your smelly list.
Dorn, I am Roger Dorn, and you will be Lou Brown with my list.
That's Sticky Lou Brown said. It says here in your, it says you got to do calisthenics, and Lou Dorn Roger Dorn threw it on the ground and took a leak on it.
That's right, Lou Brown.
I can't wait to hear this story too.
It's a very good list.
The list is good. The story about
the story. I can't. You're not going to believe this guy.
Yeah,
you're not going to believe this guy. I'm still. I'm workshopping a new name for him. I'll come up with it. Here's Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey insider. There he is. CJ, what do you make of the first week on the job for John Chaika? They win the draft lottery, then they end up firing Craig Berube. Pretty crazy first week. How do you look back on it?
Yeah, I mean, look, certainly probably some winds of change blowing through the office, which is probably, I would say is a positive for the organization. And, the way I always viewed this Berube situation, I operated under the belief it would be surprising if he came back. I think with a 30-point decline in the standings, lots of things that we obviously saw watching the team closely over 82 games, it was going to be hard to come back from that, I feel like, and especially if you're making the changes at the top of the organization, why not make it a sort of a clean start for everybody? So wasn't really surprised by today's news, was certainly surprised when they won the draft lottery just because the odds were not stacked in their favor. But, I think it's probably changed, the feeling in that front office. I know Chaika is still working through, finalizing exactly who's going to be working for him and things like that. So he's been pretty busy meeting with everybody, but he's getting to work quickly here alongside Matt Sundin, and making this coach hire, he called the most critical decision a GM can make. So I'll be very curious to see where he ends up there.
So have you heard any more about the potential meeting with Austin Matthews, and do you feel like that's something that should be on the front burner instead of kind of on the side burner based on all of the activity going on?
I actually don't think it's bad that it's taking some time, Noodles, and as of this afternoon, that's still not set yet exactly when that meeting is going to take place. I don't think it's going to be this week. And the reason I don't think it matters is because what I know to be true from Matthew's standpoint is obviously he's open to these conversations. He wants to get to know the GM better. It's natural that happens, but he's also interested in seeing what they do. And so to me, they're not going to be changing this roster around in any meaningful way between now and probably the draft. I guess we see the occasional trade during the Stanley Cup final, but reasonably speaking, there's still some time before they get to work here. And, Matthews is at home in Arizona. He's rehabbing from his knee injury. Get the sense he's just chilling in the off season. And these conversations are going to happen over a period of time. From Chaika's side of things, one thing he pointed out today to the reporters down at the practice rink was that by doing it a little later, he actually is going to go into that conversation with Matthews understanding more, right? If he flew down, let's say the day after he got the job, there was so much he didn't know about the Leafs organization. This has given him a chance to talk to other players. Obviously, he's restructuring the front office. He's making a change at the coaching staff. He's going to have a better feeling for why the Leafs are where they are, maybe how Austin might view some things that have gone on inside the organization. And that talk will be more productive as a result. So, while this is a big storyline for us in the media and for the fan base, understandably, I don't know that it's so bad if it takes a little time before that conversation happens, because I just think there's a lot of balls that have to fall into place before Austin's making any decisions or declarations anyway.
So, CJ, we had a bit of a issue earlier in the show, and just going back to the Berube, well, the brainiac of the show over there, Keith Smelly, who runs the operation. Is this firing of Craig Berube, is it as simple as last year was terrible? Like, is that what we're looking at as far as a standard in the National Hockey League? Like, you have one bad year where you're a dumpster fire and defensively you're terrible, that costs the coach's job? Like, is that basically what we're talking about, you think? Because I asked the question that Hayes thought was lunacy that I asked it. What was the biggest factor in this decision? Was it the players speaking out? Was it people in the organization? Or was it simply that last year was a disaster?
I think it's all down to last year myself. And obviously John Chaika didn't get into any specifics on why he made this move at his press conference. I think part of that is like he wasn't part of this. Why air out any dirty laundry here? I mean, obviously the one thing we can all say about Craig Berube, he's well liked. I think there's a lot of respect for him. It's been pretty evident. Keith Pelly thinks highly of him. I think on a personal level, everyone liked the guy, but the performance was tough. It's a difficult one to defend. Even coming off of winning the Atlantic Division 2 years ago, I mean, it was a precipitous fall to drop 30 points in the standings. There's lots of factors, the injuries, the goaltending. There's all sorts of stuff we can point to. But ultimately, a lot of the things that a coaching staff can affect, the Leafs were at the bottom of almost all of those rankings. And so I do think it ultimately just comes down to that. And then there's a clear opportunity here with a change in the front office, to change behind the bench. You're trying to pivot into a new era, I would say, for this team. It's a natural place to start. So I do think it is one bad year. And look, it may not be fair, but it's the way it goes in coaching. I mean, Chris Knobloch looks like he's out in Edmonton. He went to 2 Cup finals in the first round this year. He's been in 9 playoff series in 2.5 years behind their bench. And that's likely not going to be good enough to keep his job in Edmonton. I just think, especially when you're coaching in markets where the team expects to win, when you don't win and when you don't advance far enough, there's not a lot of patience for that.
Well, I think that is what a lot of Leaf fans want to know is what will the internal expectations be next season with a new coach, with a new GM? We know they have the offseason in front of them where there's going to be some turnover. But do you think they believe, Chaika, Sundin, et cetera, that they can do enough with a coach hiring, a draft, free agency, where their internal expectations next year will be that they make the playoffs? Do you think that's what they're trending towards?
Yeah, I 100% believe that they believe that. Now, there's clearly a lot of work to be done. You don't see a lot of teams go from 28th overall and jump back into the playoffs. Now, I guess conversely, you don't see a lot of teams go finish 28th overall that have players as good as Austin Matthews and William Nylander and some things that the Leafs clearly have as benefits on their roster. But absolutely, at this stage of the offseason, before this Matthews stuff has been resolved, before we've seen what they do in free agency and what the trade market yields, I think they're approaching this summer as though they need to make some moves to get the team back to being a playoff contender next year. And look, it's a tough thing to imagine them doing, if only because who's coming on in the division. You see Montreal appears to me, obviously they're still playing, but like they're going to be around for a while. Buffalo, we'll see how things proceed there. They have a big, question mark around Alex Tuck, one of their best players, but they're arriving. I think we expect Florida to be back after, resting up all those injuries they had this year. Tampa and is still a good team. I mean, the Leafs probably enter next year on paper right now, if we had to, the fifth or sixth best team in the Atlantic, depending, I guess, how you view Boston and Detroit. So it's a tall task, but they're operating that way, that they need to be competitive right away. And it sets up as a massive summer. It's hard to sketch an easy path back, I guess, other than if we imagine, hey, all of a sudden the goaltending's great, they're healthier, Matthews scores 50 goals again, and you're adding in some new players this summer. I mean, maybe it's as simple as that, but I think it's going to be a tough task. But that's the one that Chaika's signed on to take on.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think ultimately, the first overall pick, if they go with the presumptive first overall pick, that would be Gavin McKenna. That's a scoring winger who's 18. Goaltending, they got to pick which two guys they want to keep. They'll do that. But the defense is what really sticks out here. Like that's really – I know we're focused on Matthews, and obviously he deserves a ton of focus. And whether or not – but I got to believe if he's sitting there saying, hey, I want to win here in Toronto, he's smart enough to say you got to do something about that defense core. Like, it was a disaster last year. Like, what is reasonable to expect in terms of turnover on the back end, CJ?
Well, at least in free agency, there are a few players. I mean, this is not obviously, as we all know, it's not a free agent class with a lot of headline names, but there are defensemen that are set to become UFAs. Darren Radish, perhaps Rasmus Anderson, although there's always this feeling when Vegas makes a trade for a guy like that they'll find a way to sign him some point between now and July 1st. You even look at the Trubas and look, there's players out there, and they might have to do it by trade, but absolutely, it's the only thing. John Chaika has been very careful now. Today was the second day that he's spoken to the media. Obviously, he did a hit with you guys as well after his introductory press conference last week. But he's not said a lot yet in public, and when he has spoken, he hasn't given up a lot. But one thing he has been clear about is the area he's focused on is their blue line. So it's pretty obvious that he sees that gap, and I think that they can make moves. Now, do they make the right moves? It might take a risky trade. It might take trying to move out of Morgan Riley, who, while I will fully sit here and say has not performed at the level the last couple of years that preceded it, he still plays a lot as a defenseman, and you're not necessarily getting better just by shipping him out. So there's some big decisions looming there. I certainly think they're going to come back with a different looking blue line, and whether or not it ends up being better probably will dictate whether they're successful in kind of getting back to a window at least where they're a playoff team, or if they're going to be slugging along somewhere where they don't want to be, well below that playoff cutoff line.
And just to jump on that, keep in mind there's teams that are still playing. For example, Montreal, like we've talked about how Montreal is young and up and coming, and like they've got players that are playing in Laval right now that are NHL ready. So you look at potential players that are on Montreal's roster that might just get pushed out because of these young players. And I think that's the thing, does Carrier on the back end get pushed out because Reinbacher's ready? Like that, you might be able to trade for a value player like that. Carrier may not be the sexiest name, but he's an upgrade on what you have on the right side as of right now. So I think that's probably stuff that if I'm John Chaika, I'm looking around and saying, might be able to have nip and tuck here, add, upgrade in that position. If I need a right shot defenseman in the 5-hole, Carrier might be a guy, or stuff like that. That's what Chaika has to do if he wants to turn it around quicker.
Find value out there.
Exactly. That's the stuff that I would argue he would be looking at throughout the league.
Well, and he's got to decide. Look, we know about the Matthew Knies talks at the deadline. Like, is he looking at reopening that door or not? I mean, if you make that trade, to me, a key part of that kind of trade would be what you're getting back in terms of a defenseman that can make a difference in your team. So, if you're going to draft number 1 overall, and if you're going to most likely take a forward, which seems to be where any team that has a number 1 pick would be leaning based on what we're hearing, from the draft experts, then, maybe there's an opportunity to move out another forward to try to get a D. So, there's ways to go about trying to do it. But as I say, I think these are going to be, with where the Leafs are and how little they kind of have to play with, they're going to be semi-risky trades. They're not going to be guarantees maybe when we hear about it, but when it's first announced, and then you just got to see how it works out. But, that's kind of the fine line they're trying to walk here, getting back into, I think most teams might look at this and be like, hey, maybe this is the time to rebuild. That's just not on the table in Toronto. So, they're trying to do something not a lot of teams have done successfully.
CJ, can you quickly explain how Matthew Knies' name came on the radar? Because they can say they weren't looking into moving him, but they were. So why was his name surfacing?
I think it's as simple as most of the other pieces that they might consider trading, ODog, had no movement clauses, right? Like, if you were ever going to try to trade a William Nylander and make a big trade, I mean, he can limit where he goes. In fact, he can say, I'm going nowhere. It's happened in the past. It actually happened at this deadline, right? Colton Parayko squashed the deal from St. Louis to Buffalo. So, the key thing with Matthew, I think, is that he's an attractive asset. He's signed for several years into the future, which is valuable to teams, and they could trade him to any one of the 31 clubs, meaning they could really conduct an auction for him. And I actually had someone say to me this week who works for an NHL team that I won't name. He said if we were trading right now, we would actually give up more for Matthew Knies than we would for Austin Matthews. And it's nothing to do, obviously, with the gap and what the teams are. But, he's like, with Matthews, we would know if he wanted to come to us that he was not going anywhere else. So we wouldn't be under the same pressure. And he said, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, and we don't know what that's going to cost. He was just saying the value of knowing for sure you've got 5 or 6 more years of Knies in his prime, already signed, and would probably force him to give up more in that trade than for Matthews. So it's sort of hard for us to get our minds around, because obviously, as we all think highly of Matthew Knies, but he's not had the kind of career and is not going to have the kind of career Austin Matthews did. But, when it comes to the value attached to that player, it's really, really high. And the discussions I know they had at the deadline, one team put 6 pieces, I believe, into an offer for Knies. And obviously it wasn't good enough to meet what the Leafs needed to pull the trigger. But, they got a lot of teams' attention by being willing to listen on them, and ultimately didn't make that deal. Now, it's a brand new front office. Maybe some of the pressures are a little different that they have the first overall pick. I'm not sitting here saying they're definitely going to shop him again, but it's happened before. You can't rule it out as a possibility.
Awesome. Great stuff, CJ. Thank you for doing this, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys. Talk soon.
There he is, Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider. It's an interesting take on the value of Knies, and based on no movements and no trades.
Age and cost certainty.
Cost certainty, where he is in his career. All right, more on that into the next hour. Peter Laviolette coming up. We've got our PGA Championship picks as well. Jays Rays tonight. OverDrive continues up on TSN 4.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Peter Laviolette in the next hour. got a story to tell you of what I witnessed this morning. Got a list for you as well, and a perfect way to set that up.
I'm telling the story, by the way.
Oh, okay. You can tell the story, and then I'll give you my viewpoint of the story.
I need both sides, and then I will decide what the truth is.
So we've had a fiery hour. I think we got to play the Major League clip here. Lou Brown, Roger Dorn, just as kind of a tease of what is likely going to happen in the next hour. Go ahead, Joe.
Lou, want a word with you here? Sure. Got those sit-ups you want me to do? I got it right here in my contract. Says I don't have to do any calisthenics. I don't feel are necessary. So what do you think about that?
Okay. So there's Lou Brown and Roger Dorn, a.k.a. the O-Dog, and yours truly in the next hour, right, on my list. And the story of Peter Laviolette. We'll get into the Sabres win last night. Vegas in overtime. Can Minnesota survive? Vladdy, I guess he's down at the park in the cage working hard. He's trying to break out of this slump. They need him tonight, man. You cannot get swept again by the Rays. So more on that. PGA Championship picks coming up as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and up on YouTube Live.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
All right, here we go. OverDrive continues. Hour 2, brought to you by FanDuel. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, up on TSN 4, up on YouTube Live, and streaming on tsn.ca and the TSN app. We've got Peter Laviolette coming up here in a few moments. Sabres survived last night. Sabres, they find a way to win. And UPL was the right play, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
Right in the end, UPL was the right play.
Different look, right? Like 6'6" goaltender, Lions smaller.
I mentioned that the other day, but what do I know? I guess I'm just some dummy.
Was that your
No, you actually you mentioned
UPL,
go to the other guy, and it's the right call too. But I thought Buffalo was the better team the first 10 minutes, anyways.
Definitely the first 10 minutes,
and that. I don't know what goaltender interference is. Like that was a weird delay.
I found the whole transaction, Jamie, to be bizarre. You guys can both weigh in, but I think the only way the goalie interference actually happened is by the stick.
The stick, yep.
The stick pushing, Quinn's stick pushing the glove. That's because there was no other contact with the goaltender. It was their own player that made contact. The only thing I could have seen was Quinn's stick that pushed his glove a little bit, and that's all I could see.
I think that's what it was.
I thought it was watch Quinn's right. I thought his skate. Like I thought it before that. There's the slap on the glove, but before that, the stick was touched. Who was driving through the crease? If Joe goes there, that opens the goaltender up. That's contact.
Isn't it bizarre, though, that's the point? Like, no one really knows.
Well, I mean, listen, that is such a subjective rule, Go. It's such a subjective rule.
Yeah.
It's not black or white, and that's the challenge. But, Buffalo, I think the shots were 8-1 at one point. Like, they were a team that looked really determined. And Montreal, they're good, man. But
it flipped. Yeah, the Habs really started pushing back. And, Tage Thompson's goal – he owes himself a celebration. That's a big goal. He didn't even budge. He couldn't believe it was in. And yet
that's nuts that goes in a playoff game.
Crazy to go in like that.
Bad bounce. And like Dobush had been having some good bounces. That was an awful bounce for him. It goes off his leg. And it's how you react, too. Like, right. I thought it was a fantastic
It's a great game. It's been a great
way.
Series. I hope it goes 7. I expect that it likely will at this point. Yeah. Because, it feels like, here we go, we're watching it right now. I mean, it's just a completely fluky, crazy goal to score, to tie it up in the second period last night.
Let me ask you this. Tage Thompson looks off. He's not like the power play. He should be firing 105-mile-an-hour slap shots from that, umbrella area, the one-timer spot. And it's always like fake shot down low. Like, to me, I don't know if he's battling something and he's unable to get that shot or Montreal's taking it away, so they're just giving options. But
he gave it to John Rahm when he was asked about it, right? That's for me to know, and you not have to worry about, basically.
Well, he's Buffalo. I mean, now I don't know if they're in the driver's seat, but you got 2 games potentially at home ice. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and the Calder was announced today.
Yeah.
Pretty cool scene. Matthew Schaefer was on, I think, Good Morning America this morning, and was presented with the award, and he won it unanimously, which is the right play. We debated this all year. There's no one else that should have gotten a first-place vote other than Schaefer. So he got it. First time that's happened since '93 when Teemu Solani won it unanimously. But if you're a Habs fan, Demidov was second and Dobish was fourth. So, and Dobish may not even be the goaltender of the future there, with Fowler possibly being the guy in the future. So, Montreal's in a great place.
Yeah, they are.
They're
Contracts, performance, it's all those 2 guys. Imagine the New York Rangers before Lavi comes on. Imagine the New York Rangers getting rid of Gortz, and look at the work that him.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon's done a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job in Montreal. Kent Hughes and they've done a great job
there. Very
Habs
good
are in a really good place. All right, there he is. You mentioned him, Peter Laviolette, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. How you doing, Peter?
Guys, how you doing today?
We're doing very well. Is there momentum in that series in your opinion? Did Buffalo steal it back? Where do you stand on that series?
I actually thought I liked Montreal's game a little bit better. There's talk about Buffalo and the goalie change, and he stood on. I thought he was good. He came in and did his job. I thought that Montreal played a good game. He made some big saves. I thought he was better than Dobish down the other net. Dostal down the other net, and for me, Montreal still looked like a team. I guess I'm still coming off that Tampa series, and the way they played down there, they still seem to have the edge to me. I know it goes, it evens it up, but I still like the way Montreal played last night. I think they gave up 20 shots or 22 shots. I thought they had some good looks. I don't think they gave up much. They catch a bounce off the boards. Things just didn't go their way last night. But I still like their game a little bit better, I think, after watching that last night.
Lavi, you put a lot of emphasis just from your practices and the way you coach. Like, special teams is very important. The last time we spoke to you, I mentioned how the penalty kill is one of, your signature things that you have a high level of importance for. But it just seems like come playoff time, it's like you got to have that power play cooking. Like, how important is it to have both of those facets of the game, the power play and the penalty killing cooking? Because it seems like it's so important in these series. I guess goals 5-on-5 are tough to come by.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a difference for me totally on who moves on in series and who doesn't move on in series. And it's not just that. You brought up power play and penalty kill. I mean, if you can have your penalty kill operating over at 90% and you can throw your power play out at 33% in a series, maybe not for the whole playoffs, but in a series, if you can get the numbers up there, I don't know the statistics, but I'd be willing to say that those statistics say that you're moving on. Goaltending factors into that. The team that can get a goaltender that can throw out a .958 save percentage in a series, or somebody who throws out an .880 save percent. I mean, there's a huge difference. Those are swings. If they're close, they're close. Defensively, too, I think that factors into it. Teams that can play good defense, they can limit shots, they can limit grade A chances. If it's even, if it's off by a couple, it's not a big deal. It's not a swing thing. But for me, if it's drastic, if there's 12 or 13 even strength grade A chances to 4 grade A chances, then the defense of the one that led up to 4 grade A chances, good chance you're moving on. Multiply that over a series. So specialty teams, I think, definitely factors into it. I don't think it goes untouched anymore. Dog, I think it used to be a little bit more. Now there's so much video on it. There's so much time dedicated in practice to the power play and the penalty kill. I actually think that the penalty kill probably gets a little bit less attention in practice because oftentimes a lot of your power play guys, like your good players, they're killing penalties as well. And so you only have so much time out on the ice. But we did in New York once in a while, we would flip it around and we would say, okay, these are the power play units. Penalty killers are working, or we would take a couple shifts at the end of it just to get rotations down or routes down on the penalty kill. But I think it gets so much more attention now because of that importance of it through the year to build it, and then in the playoffs to have it when you need it.
Lavi, the numbers you just mentioned, like through my time in the National Hockey League, there was always seemed like an 80-20 split, 80 on the PK, 20, but you just said 90 and 33. Are those just your own expectations, or is that like
Those
just
are
over
just
time?
What I'm saying, O-Dog, is in a series. So you're talking about just an isolated series. You're talking about moving on, right? It's all about moving on. It's all about getting out of the first round.
Yeah.
It's all about winning that second round once you get there, and then that's behind you. And now it's the third round. If in the third round a goaltender throws out, I don't know, a 975 save, a 968, whatever, some ridiculously high number, he lets up 0 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 0 goals, and they sweep 4-0. That team's moving on. It's because the goaltending in that series. And so I think that the importance of it, of working on it throughout the course of the season, is it can't be understated. Like, you have to carve out. I'm going to say if we had to practice last 3 or 4 organizations, like I said, maybe not so much back in the day when we first had you. We did, but maybe it's just grown to a point where people understand how important it is on the penalty kill, and so they practice it. They show the video. They work with individual groups just to make sure that you're dialed in, because you can get to the playoffs in the regular season, and then you can move out of a series by being hot at something. Goaltending, defense, and specialty teams. Pick one of those 3. There's a good chance you can come out of a series.
So, Lavi, how hard is it to make a goaltender change like Lindy did the other day? I mean,
Not for Lavi.
Bodily function.
But, I mean, if UPL throws up a dud last night, the series could be over. Technically, you're going home down 3-1. So, and you're in a tandem situation, so I understand both of them have played, but is it a gut move? Is it more of what you're seeing from Montreal's attack to maybe have a bigger goaltender, a different style in there? Take us through maybe a thought process of a goaltender change in a series.
I think that sometimes it can be performance related, and I'm not sure that one was necessarily. He came in and did the job, and good call by Lindy, and a gutsy call, because you're right, the numbers could have swung to 3-1, and then it's really tough. It's really difficult. I remember, Martin Gerber, the year we won the Cup in Carolina, Martin Gerber was the goaltender the entire season. And at the beginning of the Montreal series, he caught a flu. And the first 2 games didn't go his way. And Cam Ward was an up-and-coming rookie, great goaltender. But he was in his rookie year behind Gerbs. And it got to a point where Cam had been running with it. And he got us into the conference finals against Buffalo. And I can't remember the series and what it was at. It might have been 2-2. It might have been 2-2, and we were going to Buffalo for Game 5 maybe, or Game 4 in Buffalo, 2-1, and we were down 2-1. I can't remember exactly, but I remember Martin Gerber was so good in practice. I'm watching him as a coach, and we would come off for like 4 days prior to the game I started him, 3 days prior. You couldn't beat him. And it came off of a loss where Cam's a young goaltender. We thought maybe a break would be good for him. 1 game, we were going to put him in there. He goes into Buffalo, and we win 4-0. And now it's a little bit of a conundrum for me, because Cam had gotten us to that point. He got us out of the Montreal series. We lost the first 2 games. Cam wins 4 in a row, gets us out of that series. We go into the next series, we get through it. Now we're in the conference finals, and it was supposed to be just a 1-game switch, and it was a shutout, and so I came back with it. It didn't go well that game. Ended up making a goaltender change inside of that game, but I do think that sometimes it's hard, especially for a young goaltender. Not that he is, but I think it's important to take a break sometime, especially if you feel like your other goaltender has it going on. And sometimes you can see that in practice. It was visible for us. As a coaching staff and the team, he was on fire. You couldn't beat him. He got his juice back. He found his mojo in the net in practice. And you're like, we got to start him at some point here. We got to start him. And the right opportunity came in Game 4 in Buffalo. We won the game 4-0. And then we went back home to Game 5, and like I said, we started him again, but we ended up going in a different direction with it.
With Peter Laviolette here on OverDrive, and obviously big news in Toronto today, the Maple Leafs moving on from Craig Berube. And, when they hire the next coach, which will happen, I am fairly certain what we're going to hear from that coach is clear slate, blank page, moving forward here. You've been in that spot before where you've walked onto a new team or into a new room with veteran players and maybe high expectations within the organization, whether or not they should be high or not. I don't know if you've used that line before, Lavi, but how is that possible? Like, I guess that's my question. I know you're going to say that publicly, maybe say it to the players, but as a new coach, how much do you need to know about what happened in the past? Like, how do you go through that kind of new team and addressing the team for the first time and trying to figure out exactly what you have?
I don't go too far backwards. I think sometimes you just going in for the interview, first of all, I think you dig a little bit just to find out, what information that you can on what was good, what wasn't good. And I'm not talking necessarily about Toronto or Chief. Chief's a good coach, and I know him. I'm just saying that if whoever goes in there, I think you find out a little bit. But then at that point, for me, it's more all about what you can do for that organization to take them and move them forward. And so I always find it's important to have a direct plan on what it is, the way that you want to play, the identity in which you want to play, the culture in which you want to build, how you're going to get there. And that's through practice. That's through moving it up and down the ice in practice, grinding on the ice, the compete in practice, taking that into games when it's not good in practice, putting it out there in front of the play. Like, you have to build it almost from anew. And very rarely do I go backwards. I don't go backwards in a press conference. I don't go backwards with a team. I only move forward. I only talk about what it is that we're going to do and how we're going to move forward. And that, for me, and every coach is different, but for me, it's led me to success with getting a team, in that first year where there's transition, getting them on a page and getting them out of the hole and getting them going towards finding their way back to the playoffs and hopefully a Stanley Cup.
Lavi, when you're meeting with somebody like the situation here in Toronto, do you basically know what the intentions of that person in management's, like, do you know their intentions as soon as they walk out the door? Or because it's probably pretty obvious, or it was to Chief. Like, they're, going to meet with the guys, sit down. Like, I'm sure, what do you think? Do you think Chief knew as soon as him and Chaika, the meeting ended, that he knew what his fate was, or what?
I'd be speculating. I truly would be speculating. I can talk to you about some of my own situations as we love that stuff. Go ahead. I've been hired and fired here or there. I mean, it was been a time or two maybe when I got hired or fired, but I couldn't even speculate to that and what it may have not gone on in that room. So I'm going to stay 100% clear of that. There's been times, first of all, I kind of told my wife, I said, I'm never going to get caught off guard. You know what I mean? Like, if I get hired on Tuesday and fired on Friday, I'll be like, all right, pack it up again. We're out of here. But I do, for me, there have been times when I knew that it was not going to be there. Like, sometimes there'll be a message or a call that says, hey, meet me in my office in the morning at 8. Well, for me at that time, it's time to rally the troops at home, let the kids know in school that something's going to be said, and, that we might be heading out of town for a week and just to get out of there. But I don't want to speculate, couldn't speculate. It's a tough thing when change happens for anybody, whether it's a player that gets traded, a coach or gets fired, or a GM gets fired, and their families, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I don't know what happened there, but I do know that there's been times when the writing's kind of been on the wall for me and I read it, and then other times where, I wasn't completely aware, but not caught off guard either.
Well, we've been debating the job. Obviously, there's a job opening here in Toronto in terms of how much prospective coaches would want this job. Like, how desirable is it, considering it's a massive market, incredible history. I'm sure there'd be good money. They've got good players. There's uncertainty with Matthews. I think 4 or 5 years ago, this would have been a job that people would have jumped on. I'm curious how you view the organization, or even just the roster. Like, when you look at this roster, how competitive do you think they can be if they're playing at their best?
Again, for me, a potential coach eyeing that, I still think it's it's a top job. And I'm not saying that for me. I'm just saying in general, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have good players there. They just got the number 1 pick. They've got an amazing fan base. And so for me, there's a lot of potential there. This goes back to what I said, though, when you take over, or when I've gone into, there's been 6 teams now that I've gone into. I had to go into Carolina halfway through the year. I'm not sure there's a more difficult thing than going into a locker room halfway through the year. But when you actually have a summer to plan your staff, talk to the players, like I said, put a plan in place and then execute your plan. I think that everything is about moving forward and not so much about moving past. There's been plenty. I remember the year in Carolina when we won the Cup. Just to put it in perspective for you, Sports Illustrated came out and they ranked 30 teams. And they didn't have Ovi yet, or they got Ovi that year, and he was just a rookie, or whatever it might have been. It was close to that time frame. And they put Washington 30th. And then they put Carolina 29th. And the last comment on that clip was, feel free to make them 30th. So that's the year we won the Cup. And so you never know from year to year. You can't, I truly think that you can't just base things on what's happened. It's what you built. And then moving forward, too, somebody's going to win the Cup this year. And it works the other way as well. You can't just assume because you won the Cup this year that it's going to be sunshine and roses next year. Because that team next year has to go out and prove it, build it, earn it. All of those things matter. And so I 100% think it's possible everywhere. But Toronto and the market with the personnel that they have, for sure, it's a good hockey team for somebody who is going to take over there, I believe.
Lavi, I just got to tell you that the year you took over in Carolina, I'm sure you know this, but Jake Daniels was my roommate and then turned into my assistant coach.
Yeah,
in 2 days. And
I didn't know the roommate part.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
He was my roommate. He was my roommate for years. It was like me and Jake were roommates. So he calls me and he goes, "Oh, dog, I just want to let you know that I'm the coach now. I'm the assistant coach." And I'm like, "What?" and he's like, he goes, "No, well, obviously he retired. Like, I don't know. This guy just retired. He's my roommate." And then he calls me and then he says, "I'm now your coach." And I go, "You've got to be you-know-whatting me." And he goes, "I've talked to Lavi. I just want to let you know things are going to be a little different around here, so good luck with that." And he hung up the phone, and I'm like, my roommate is now my coach. I can't believe this.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Sometimes things happen quick. I remember. I had 1 year of coaching in Wheeling in the East Coast Hockey League, and I went back to Providence, right? So I had 1 year as a head coach, and now you have to have so much experience just to get an assistant coaching job in the East Coast Hockey League. Like, you got to have stuff on your resume. And back then, I went down to Wheeling for a year. The job opened up in Providence. When I was in Wheeling, the year before, I played with Billy Armstrong, the GM of Utah. And so he was my partner. And I went to Wheeling to become the head coach. He became the captain of the team. And then 1 year later, I go back to be the coach, and I name him the assistant coach. And we're both hired. And we're in the middle of the season. It was an unbelievable season. I mean, we won 71 out of 99 games. But at the beginning, I'm looking at him going, I can't believe that they let us do this. I can't believe I'm the coach and you're the assistant coach. This is crazy. But it was an amazing year. I mean, we won the Cup. We won 71 out of 99 games. It was incredible. But it was fun. Kind of a story like yours, you know.
I love it. Well, it's great catching up with you, Peter, as always. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
You got it. It's Peter Laviolette joining us here on the Maple Turtle Hotline. That's awesome insight.
Great stories.
Yeah, those are cool. Wow, look at Bill Armstrong now, right, out in Utah. And
what my roommate really said was, I didn't want to say it in front of Lavi, but he goes, he doesn't like you very much.
Just giving you a tip.
Yeah,
just a heads up.
Yeah, I was at one of my best friends was a lawyer, and we were at some function for him, and he called my cell phone, and he goes, "I'm just letting you know, I don't know what you're doing tonight, but you might want to if you're out and about, you might want to just go home because there's a new sheriff in town, and he does not like you."
Okay.
Well, I just remember it was me. It was like me sitting at the pub watching Jerry Bettman, and I was like, "You better cancel the season, you bastard." And I just started sweating. I'm like, oh, God, because your life changes. It's like, and that's why you do it. It's like you get people's attention. It's like you're comfortable. You're going to the rink. Hey, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, it's like it's got your attention, and you're like, I've got a guy that thinks completely different of me than 24 hours ago. And that's, I guess, it all goes in part with the coach bump because everybody reacts different, right? Your frame of mind is different.
Well, that's it. And, listen, Peter Laviolette's got a long history of being a guy that, changes a team quick, and has an impact. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was a guy that the Maple Leafs are looking at. All right, we've got to get to our picks. We've got a list. We've got a story to tell. We've got a lot to get into here. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live. All right, best bets coming up later in the hour. Get to our PGA Championship picks as well. We believe McIlroy is going to play. He's got, I guess he's dealing with some issues right now. We'll see what happens with
his foot.
Bad foot
blister.
on McIlroy.
Blister on the foot. Correct.
Blister issue.
I'll tell you what. You can do your own thing. Cam Young might be the first. I think he's going to win the golf tournament.
You're trending towards Cam Young. He's been arguably the hottest guy in golf.
Give me the first pick, and I'll take Cam Young if you want.
All right. Do you want to fire off the picks right now? I mean, we can do that if you're up for it. It's your call.
I
could wrap it.
I'll take Cam Young.
Okay. PGA OverDrive PGA Picks brought to you by TaylorMade. Built better, core to cover and performance seal with micro coating. Switch to the all-new TP5 and TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Go ahead. You can have Cam Young.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take Scotty Scheffler all day. All day and twice on Sunday.
I love where this is going. Rory McIlroy.
Dude, he's got 1 foot. You saw him last week. He was brutal at Quail Hollow.
He pulled off his toenail. He'll be fine.
He's going to have the Tiger ass grab, but he's going to have the foot limp if it doesn't go well for him. He's already setting the table.
Or this could be Tiger at the 08 U.S. Open, right? Rocco Mediate. Who's going to play the role of Rocco here where McIlroy acts like a hero for 4 days and pretends like he can't walk?
Yeah,
that's possible.
Give him a cart.
Maybe gets a blue flag. That's not a bad idea.
Get a blue flag for the
cruise around in a cart. I guess Tiger actually. TMZ reporting Tiger's private bird just landed back in the U.S. of A.
Oh, nice.
It's all good. Zurich. Month away. Good to go.
Yeah, he was away for a month, and now Tiger's back. So he's fine now. Tiger's okay.
All good.
I'll take my boy Fitzy, and I got to clarify which one. Matthew Fitzpatrick. I was thinking Alex, but I'm going to go Matthew Fitzpatrick. I love this. Scheffler and Fitzy, those are the two best players in the tourney right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm going to take a couple guys from Live. I'm going to take Johnny Rahm.
Dude, he is in such a weird place.
You got to mind your own beeswax here. I like him to bounce back. I'm going to fill out my bracket here. I'm going to go Johnny Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Nick Taylor as my Canadian.
Do you want Keegan? Because I know you're going to take Keegan Bradley after.
Yes. Sorry. Keegan is my third selection, and then I'm going Rahm, Bryson, and Nicky Taylor.
Okay.
All right.
I will take Brooks Koepka. I love Koepka at this track.
Scares me a little bit, yeah.
I'm going to take Colin Morikawa. I think his back is back and fine, and he's going to be okay. I need two more. I need a couple of Canadians.
No, you just need one Canadian.
I'll take one
You need two more players, one non-Canadian and one Canadian.
I will take Corey Connors.
Yep.
And I am leaning between two of the old school guys. I don't think Spieth is going to complete the slam. It's too bad that doesn't get enough noise, right? Like he's been chasing it for a decade. JT's starting to play. I think Justin Thomas is starting to play. I'll take JT.
Take him.
I'll take Justin Thomas. All right, there you go. Lock him in with the ability to possibly add after the first round tomorrow.
I'm going to take Xander. Give me Xander. You get one more.
You're just going to jump in there and take Xander.
That's
okay,
it.
Go ahead. And I got to take I'll take my boy Tommy Fleetwood. I'll take Tommy.
Okay.
I love Tommy. Tommy's hitting the QI4D.
That's it. No more.
That's it. Enough.
All
okay.
right, it's enough.
There you go. The OverDrive PGA Picks brought to you by TaylorMade. Built better, core to cover, and performance seal with micro coating. Switch to the all-new TP5 and TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Speaking of which, before I get to my list here, the O-Dog gave me a call this morning. I said, what are you doing early in the morning? I said, let's meet up on the range. I want to see you hitting the new QI4D.
Nice.
He said, absolutely. I'll meet you up there in an hour. So we're driving in the backwoods of the middle of nowhere. Now, you can take the story from here because it's your story to tell.
Oh, I had errands to run, okay? I have large amounts of water in my truck. I'm always kind of trying to fuel up. No DCs, just water, some black coffee. And I'm in these back roads.
Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, dude.
Nowhere.
But we play golf at the same place. So I pull over to take a whiz. And I hear a guy honking, and I just give him the finger. I'm like, just stop it. And who is it? It's this guy.
It's me.
It's
double
Brian Hayes, of all people, in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, what are the chances, the timing?
Please tell me
this guy
honking while you had the
I did not take a video. I thought of it because I turned the corner and I saw his truck. I'm like, there it is. There's the Lincoln. I know it's him. But here's the detail he left out. A sand wedge away from the gate of the course.
I had to, dude.
Like this guy, it was literally 100 meters north and a left, and he could have actually used plumbing. Instead, the guy pulls over on the side of the road like an animal.
Here's the thing: the only thing that could make this visually better if he's a pants down to his ankles taking a leak.
Yes, he was with nachos on top of the outdoor urinal.
Dude, if you would have heard about this story a lot sooner. If it was pants down around the ankles.
Oh, my. If there was pants down, there would have been an accident. You would have drove off the road.
Dude, I would have literally rolled off the road if this guy was in full pants down.
I have idiot buddies who to be drunk and go into the bathroom and do that. Like, it's literally pants down at a urinal.
Totally.
And their ass is hanging out. You're like, what is going on here? But that's all I can think of. You're right. What was it? Was that It was a Shea Weber fan.
Yeah, it was a
with
guy
the
at the Bell Center.
nachos.
It was a Habs
at the
fan.
Bell Center.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the pants down. What he was he just had nachos under the urinal.
Right, it was underneath. It wasn't on top.
Yes, it was like between his 2 feet under the urinal.
Yes, yeah, he was shooting
taking a shot over
the
top
of
of
it.
Joe, get that pic before the end of the show.
So that was the O-Dog on Side Road 4.
That is tough. That is tough.
Northeast end of the city this morning.
Is it? Technically, it's not a misdemeanor or anything. It's not illegal, is it?
To
take a leak.
Look at this. Look at nachos.
On the fourth
this is at the side of the road.
Fourth side road. The O-Dog. O-Dog Weber. Jeff Weber. 30 seconds from a washroom inside the
It didn't matter, man. It's just,
30 seconds.
Had to go.
All right. I have a list here for you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I was going to call it Hazy B's phone buzzing list. Now, you have changed the name. What is the name
listing.
of it?
Oh, Keith Smelly's list.
Keith Smelly's list. Yes. Very mature from Jeff Weber. This is the Leafs offseason edition, all right? So this is anecdotal. This is purely – I'm basing it on my phone blowing up because I got 5 things that have happened since the end of the season for the Maple Leafs. And I am ranking them because they have all been significant. There's been a lot to talk about the Leafs.
Sure.
We said it off the top of the show. They haven't played a meaningful game in like 3 months.
So this list is what blew up your phone the most.
Yes. Now, none of these are going to be surprising to you in terms of the items, but the listing itself might be, and I'm curious if you guys feel the same way because you got phones as well, social media accounts, etc. Number 5 on the list, Berube being fired. Now, that might be surprising to you, but I think, again, I didn't think there was a ton of support, at least in my circles, for Berube coming back. It's not anti-Berube. It's not that people don't appreciate him as a coach or as a guy. That's just the way the team played last year and kind of where I think a lot of people hope it's going to go. And, again, with Chaika coming in, just feels like they're trying to establish somewhat of a new era, right? And so I think Berube's firing being at 5 is more so the fact that it's not overly shocking to people.
Okay.
So I've got Berube's firing. Now, again, that is recency bias. That has only been a day. Maybe the phone gets cooking over the next 2 or 3 days to possibly move this up the list. But I got Berube's firing at 5. Number 4, I have Keith Pelley's press conferences. Now, this is a little bit bending the rules because it would include the one after Treliving got fired, which was technically during the season.
Right.
But this is one that I thought of putting higher on the list, I got to be honest. When I was crunching my own numbers in terms of data and phone usage, Keith Pelley's original presser post-Proud Treliving blew up.
Yes.
With AI and, all the different things. Yes. And even the introduction of Chaika and Sundin, there was some weird kind of stuff going on, including, him and Simmons going back and forth.
That first one was Bizarro World, though.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was tough. There's no getting around it. It was tough.
There's no other way around it. I'm surprised that it's not one.
Well, it speaks to how much else has happened and the craziness
more
of the
content, exactly. More content.
So Keith Pelley's presser's at 4. This is, again, Hazy B's, or what is it? Keith Smelly's
phone buzzing list.
Phone buzzing list, the Leaf offseason edition. Number 3, Matthews' future. Austin Matthews' future.
That's fair.
A lot of people wondering, what are you hearing? Where's he going? Does he want to stay? If he stays, what's he going to look like?
Especially after CJ's article.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We would have, to be honest, I wouldn't be talking much. We wouldn't have talked much about it, but that article got a lot of play. It got people thinking. That's fair.
For sure. Like where he sees the team going, the nature of a modern athlete, right?
Yeah.
It's the reality with the number of captains in this country right now. And he had a weird season. The injury, the team's response to it, winning the gold, everything that came with that. There's a different vibe around Matthews today than there certainly was a year or two ago, let alone 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And Marner leaving and doing what he's doing, I think a lot of people are speculating and wondering what is he thinking? Where is he going to go?
Yeah.
So I got Matthews and his future at number 3. John Chaika being hired at number 2. Chaika at 2 because, it's the GM, it's the architect, and it's the whole story. Like, who's he going to be with? It turns out it's Matt Sundin. What's his title? And people diving into his past and his reputation. And I've heard it all. You guys have heard it all. Will GMs work with him? Will they not? Who's going to want, all this kind of stuff is in front of them right now. John Chaika's, he's got the job. And obviously he earned it, and he impressed Keith Pelley, et cetera. But the fact that they hired Chaika, of all people, needless to say, created quite a buzz.
It certainly did. A lot of big-time buzz. And
yes.
He was – he was out of left field because he wasn't a name that was probably front and center, and then all of a sudden you started hearing rumblings about his name.
Exactly.
Wow.
3 months ago, no one ever would have mentioned John Chaika.
Yeah.
Never.
You should do If I Had Told You.
That's a good one.
At Christmas, what this team was, give me a date last year, like a date,
probably
November.
Even Noodles, I would say, if I had told you before puck drop Game 7 last year, this is where we are. Because you'd say, man, Shanahan's gone, Treliving's gone, Berube's gone, Marner's gone. What's going to happen with Matthews? They've won the lottery. It's great. Chaika's here. It's crazy.
No one, if we did a crystal ball segment, not one person would
that's
ever
predict you're right.
Those.
If we were sitting here and it's 5:41 and Game 7's tonight, and you say fast forward because it's
almost
more than a calendar
year.
Yeah, I guess it's a calendar year around it. Man, oh man, there's some change there.
Crazy change.
Yeah.
And number 1 on this list, the phone buzzing list, Hazy B's Leafs offseason edition, them winning the lottery. Sparked people I haven't heard from in a long time saying, I can't believe it. I'm back. What does this mean for them? Is McKenna the real deal?
You got I'm backs?
I got I'm backs. I got a fair amount of – listen, and it wasn't I'm back as in – I said I'm officially out. It's that people faded on the team. They were so unwatchable. It was so awful down the stretch.
I'm
no
not
one
kidding
was
you.
paying attention.
I've had people, and it's not just because the Habs. Like my buddy Jerry, who's got a fantastic store at Sherway, clothing store. He flat out told me, "I'm a Habs fan now. I'm from Montreal, and I'm gone.
Really?
I'm gone." You don't have any of those? You don't
a full flip to the Habs. That's
dude.
absurd behavior.
You know what
I have had numerous. I'm flipped to the.
That's sickening behavior.
No,
I think. If
I
you're
don't
a
know
Habs
how
fan, you don't wanna
serious
hear
Jerry is, but
that's
he
a
told
Gary
me.
play, not a Jerry play. He should know better than that.
I've
His name's
had
Jerry.
What I haven't had that, guys. I've had more like I have a backup team. Like I've heard more about. Well, I kind of always liked that team too. This is my team, but it's almost like you said a while back, a cheat team. I feel like
Me and Buffalo Donnie, we went right to Buffalo.
Brought forward to me
Donnie.
when I talked to somebody locally or somebody at my kid's school or whatever. Always been a Leafs fan. Well, I've always been a fan of that team as well. Team X, whatever it is, so that there's almost like a cheat team. It's like, okay, this team, but I like this one too. But that's the only thing I've heard different.
I find that hard to believe. I don't like that. You got to be committed.
Yeah,
either you're all in or you're not.
That's all I've heard.
You can't jump from the Leafs to the Habs, too.
You know what happens? Like Jerry and everyone else, as soon as training camp and they see the jersey and then they're like, they get all googly-eyed. Well, they'll be back on the train.
That's it. If it's McKenna, like if they draft him and he comes bombing out first night, it's going to be a huge story. The amount of jerseys they're going to sell, like all that kind of stuff.
Well, you got to have answers.
Matter,
I think by the draft we're going to see a lot of more answers. Like you're going to know hopefully know the intentions of the captain. You're going to know the intention. You're going to hear rumors about who Chaika's looking at in free agency, all of that type of stuff. Because the cup will be handed out, and now you get to work. Now the guys are available, UFAs, all of that type of stuff. Like you're going to see players linked to certain teams, and that's where the exciting part's going to be if you're in this market.
Absolutely. All right, there it is.
There's a good list
for you guys.
I like that list.
You still better do before this week is over, and there's only 2 days left. Maybe Friday, give it to me. I want the worst massive
chokers.
Trades. No, remember that
the Paul George trade.
Paul George to the Clippers, like package deals. I want the 5 worst out there. That's one
in sports. Yeah, Paul George is at. I'm not
one.
topping
Okay,
that.
Well, then you only got to come up with 4 under Paul George
going to be likely in there. Although those are 2 trades that have happened in the last 5 years. But the Luka deals.
Taylor Hall for Adam Larson.
What about Toronto getting Dougie in that massive package deal?
Yes, that's a great one for the Leafs.
Leafs got Doug Gilmour.
But what did Calgary
Gary Lehman,
awesome player, but like Doug Gilmour,
50 goal scorer. Yeah,
50 goal scorer.
No,
but
Dougie
wasn't
Gilmour
that 5 for 5 though? Wasn't it
a
massive
player deal? 10-player deal, largest in NHL history, I believe.
I would love to see another one of those.
Oh, it'd be incredible. Be impossible, but it would be incredible.
I don't know. The lack of those are just it's so. It's so brutal for fans. Love those, man, and I get it. It's not like fantasy hockey, but if you mixed in one of those for your fan base, and you could possibly be in a situation where your team gets the Dougie Gilmour and it turns things around for 3 years, wow! Like the excitement it brings, it's incredible.
Oh, such a great trade! What a deal, Cliff Fletcher, and it coincided with Pat Burns showing up. Like everything just worked. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I got to come up with that because I got to put in some work, man. That's going to be tough because if you're going across all sports.
Well, come up with the popular ones that people would know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, the Paul George one, the Dougie Gilmour one.
There's
for
Tuukka
sure.
Rask deal. That one.
Which one was that?
Isn't it for Tuukka? Who?
Tuukka Rask for Andrew Raycroft.
Dude, I told you not to talk
Razor's
about that.
your guy.
I love Razor too, but I'm just saying, isn't the one that turned into Tommy Curvers for Scotty Niedermayer?
That's the worst one in franchise history.
Right? Like that was
without question.
And I love
Tommy. That was the Lindros draft. Yeah. I've talked about that.
So we've got lots of ideas.
Yes, we have a lot. I could do the Leaf draft. I've done that before. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll come back with our best bets powered by FanDuel. Jays Rays tonight. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Jays Rays, I'm going to play the under tonight. Totals, it's not a high total, 7.5, but you got Cease on the mound. The Jays bats have just not been lively.
Come on, guys. Let's get some mojo cooking.
Yeah.
They came back yesterday. They were down early again. That's 2 games in a row. And pushed it to extras, but just got away from them again last night, man.
Yeah.
The Rays have owned them. I'm reluctant to – I kind of feel like the Jays will win tonight, but I'm reluctant to bet it. So I'm going to play the under in a tight ball game. Best bets powered by FanDuel. Same game parlays available for every MLB game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario. And Tampa just plays really sound baseball. I know that's a cliche, but they run the bases well. They put pressure on you.
Nobody should be shocked at the turnaround of those guys. They're one off season. Okay, back on the horse.
Right. They they find players that are
fundamental
not
you to
names.
death.
And they small ball you to death, exactly. And they pitch well and they're managed well, and they're like the Jays are 10.5 games back of the Rays right now.
Dude, that's
it's
a lot,
May
man.
13th. Yeah, they're 10.5 games.
They're a solid
behind them.
team, man. Really solid.
Very solid. And I guess Max Fried left the game today for the Yankees, or that could be trouble.
See the note about Vladdy and the working up a lather in the batting box or whatever. I mean, he's got to do something tonight.
His
to me,
numbers are not good, Noodles.
They're not good, but they need him to break out.
Yes.
This is a guy that, if you're going to come out of it, Vladdy's got to be the guy. And I'd put in the extra work. Maybe it'll pay off. That's
he's the one that lights everything on fire, right? He gets the crowd, and he's the leader he's the leader, man. That's what they do.
Listen, and guys who had magic last year, Springer, Varsho, it's not going great for them. Kirk is still out, Barger's out. They're chasing right now. They're
exactly.
It's a long season. You still have a lot of games left. They're like 2 games out of a wild card spot. It's not like it's doom and gloom completely. But at some point,
got to get going.
Yeah, you get into June, July, the season gets away from you, man. They got to find a way to get one tonight. You do not want to get swept twice in a week and a half by the Rays.
Yeah.
All right, so we got that. We're going to see if Minnesota can survive tonight. Not loving the chances of that. NBA playoffs continuing this evening as well. PGA Championship tomorrow, so it's going to be a good one tomorrow. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, and, of course, up on YouTube Live. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Nice job, Smelly. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.